Hey, what's up? I kind of wanted to redo this video mainly because the other video didn't represent the knife very well, and some of the modifications I did were kind of haphazard and premature, or at least to put in a video. So here we have the Maserin ARM-1. It's an Italian knife company, Maserin that is. They're kind of like Fox. They've got quite a few designs. They've had quite a few designs throughout the years, but they're not as well known as Fox. And to be honest, people know Maserin more for the traditional knives that they made, or they still make. Very few, at least North American product reviewers, even know about this knife. I think I haven't seen any reviews or just demonstrations of this knife on the internet at all. So that's also a reason why I do this, is I find knife designs that I really like that I cannot find information on, and I will do a preliminary review. That's what the other review was. This is a little bit more of a better review because I've carried it more and I've modified it to where I'm happy with it. So with that said, let's get the specifications out of the way first. You can see them here. The model number of this is the ARM-1 650/AS. Now AS stands for anti-slip. This has a textured grip, very reminiscent of deck tape or something similar, or even sandpaper, like a 50 grit, 60 grit sandpaper. The size of the knife, or specifically the blade, is 3 3/4 inches. So it's a little larger. The thickness of the blade stock is 0.16 inches or 40 millimeters. The handle length is pretty much 5 inches, and the handle width is 0.604 inches or 0.6 inches. So it is a rather thick knife. I will get that out of the way first. It's thick, which makes carrying it a little awkward. And I'll get to that in a minute. The weight is 159 grams or 5.6 ounces, so it's a little bit heavier. It's all around just a bigger knife and not really designed as an EDC knife, which should be evident by the fact that it's marketed as a military blade. The materials: the blade is 440A at 54 to 57 Rockwell. The handle is T6 6061 aluminum scales with the anti-slip inserts. There are the inserts on both sides, that side and that side. I'll get into that more in a second as well. And the bushings are Teflon bushings. Now in my knife there are phosphor bronze and Teflon. There are both. That's a modification I did, and it seems to work well. I don't like Teflon washers. They just are too cheap, and they bend and they warp, and if the blade isn't perfectly machined and the pivot is not perfectly machined, then they just start getting messed up and actually make the action of the knife terrible. So that's why I put phosphor bronze washers in there as well. The finish on the blade is bead blasted. They do come in other finishes. I'll get to that at the end of the video. And the handle is anodized black. It's a rough finish, very similar in the overall finish of the Benchmade 940, or 943 technically. Basically the same. The blade shape, as you can see, is a drop point flat grind. Nice flat grind. It's got a bit of a flat here if you want to sharpen it. It's got a swedge, very subtle swedge, and it's got a nice relief edge. The lock is a liner lock. It is a bit thin for a liner lock, and especially for a knife this big. The liner should be a little bit thicker, in my opinion, for a knife like this. As a military design knife, it should just be beefier. But who knows why they went with what they did. The deployment, it has ambidextrous thumb studs, it has a flipper, and it has a kind of a wave feature. It's not that good of a wave because of the shape. You can see here it's sloped that way, and when you're pulling it out of your pocket like this and your pocket catches, the material can just slip off of this ramp and only open the blade partially. And then that can be dangerous because you go to grip it and then just cut yourself. So I don't recommend waving this knife. I recommend either opening it with the flipper or the thumb studs. But that wave feature also acts as the thumb ramp, and it works quite well. It's got a bit of milling here on the thumb ramp and also on the handles. The handle jimping is a bit rough, but the thumb ramp jimping is not. So, I don't know. If you press your thumb up against it, it can feel not as bad. So, the pocket clip comes right side tip up only. As you can see here, it's on the left side. I modified it myself. I've pretty much done that with all of my knives now. It's just how I like them. I cannot carry a knife in my right side pocket. So, it's not assisted. The designer, it doesn't say a specific name, but it's designed by Maserin. It's Italian made, and the MSRP is about $140. Yeah, it's not cheap. And especially when you're considering the materials that you're getting, like 440A steel and aluminum handles and plastic washers, this knife, it kind of, I don't know, it seems a little too expensive for what you get. The design is okay, and the materials are okay, but not $150 okay. They do make a version of this knife with an upgraded steel. It's actually N690 CO, so it's very similar to the Predator 2 by Fox, and this is one of the comparisons that I'll show in a minute. So you can buy this blade in a better steel, but the cost goes way up. It goes to about $200. So it goes from about $150 to $200 for the, or even more. I think it might be $220. It's 129 euros. I don't know how that works out to in US dollars, but it's expensive. So I would like to see the price go down. The N690 CO steel version is a custom version, or Maserin calls it personalizzato. Personalizzato. I don't speak Italian, so I don't really know, but anyway, it's personalized, so you can only get that better steel in a personalized knife. And usually it's some company that wants to do a promo, and they'll have their logo on there. And I think the only ones I've seen so far are black blades. So, and they have black hardware, black pivot, pocket clip, lock, and pocket clip screws. The only thing that's silver on those ones is the backspacer. I don't know why that is. But anyway, that's the different options. This knife also comes in different blade shapes. There's a tanto version, which I think looks okay. It's chisel ground, as far as I can tell. So, I mean, you're going to have a chisel ground tanto. That has very specific applications, and especially in military. So, I understand that it could work in that role, but for everyday use and more general tasks, a V-grind is much better. And so I would recommend this blade. Like I said, they also come in different coatings, black coating or this satin coating, and then also they come with different inserts. This is the anti-slip or no-slip insert. They also make this knife with olive wood inserts or olive wood prestige inserts, which basically they look a lot nicer and they're a darker olive wood. The regular olive wood inserts are just kind of a light color. Both of them look good, and to be honest, I would recommend the olive wood inserts over this just because this is so aggressive, and the pocket clip as it is actually rests right on top of the material, so as it comes out of the box it will shred your pants in a hurry. So what I've done is I've actually, first of all, I reversed the pocket clip so that it's now on the left side. You might be able to do this yourself. I don't know how good other people are at drilling holes and tapping them, but it's not that hard. These holes are slightly further back towards this screw than the factory holes, and I use slightly different hardware. The hardware that comes with this knife is silver, so it matches the pocket clip. I could not find other stuff, and I personally like the black more. So anyway, this knife also comes with a Allen wrench to take down the knife. Only this size though. It doesn't come with the size for the pocket clip. It just comes with the size for these screws. They fit these three handle screws and then the pivot as well. So that's how the knife comes. I've modified it a little bit. Back to what I think of the knife. I think it's okay. Again, I think it's overpriced, but it is a cool design, and I actually am quite fond of it. I just wish it was a little bit cheaper. But it has a very blocky feel, and for everyday use it's not that good. And carrying it is a little awkward, but I understand the design. It was meant for military use, and quite possibly as a utility blade for someone who's just out in the field, probably with gloves on, and he needs something that really won't slip out of your hand. It's got aggressive edges and patterns and milling and stuff to keep it in your grip, which is also where these come in. It's just a really aggressive feel, very squared off, and it won't come out of a gloved hand. And it also leaves enough material out of the pocket so that a gloved hand can easily grab it and pull it out, as long as the anti-slip surface underneath the pocket clip is smoothened a bit. As you can see, what I've done is I've scraped most of that grit away underneath the pocket clip so that it's nice and smooth, and then I also took the pocket clip and bent it upwards so that it isn't putting as much pressure downwards, so that it's much easier to pull out of the pocket. I would recommend doing that on this knife. In the pocket, again, it's very thick, it's kind of long, and these parts here are a little awkward. And because of the orientation of the pocket clip, sometimes this thing will catch on your pocket regardless of what you do, and it could pop the blade open a little bit as you're pulling it out of your pocket if you're not careful. And just to me, that's a bit of a dangerous feature, and I don't know if there's an easy remedy, but I would just tell you to be aware of it and not not try and just pull this thing out of your pocket quickly. It takes a bit of practice to get used to how this knife opens and operates, and I just recommend getting familiar with it if it interests you. Again, it's not really an EDC blade, it's a military blade, a hard use blade. I would like to see the liner thicker though, because it's that type of knife. But as it stands, it's not too bad, and it works. The deployment, I will be honest, is a bit messed up. First of all, you've got several different things here that can interfere with your grip. If you're using the thumb studs, your finger naturally wants to rest near the flipper, which can actually impede the action. If you're using the flipper, it's fine, but the flipping action is not that good, as you can see, mainly due to the reason that the detent is not strong enough. It's kind of weak, and I don't know if you can see that there, but the detent ball is not very prominent, and it doesn't engage the blade very well. I measured it at around 800 grams, which translates to roughly 8 newtons of force. And for a blade detent, that's not that much. For example, the Predator 2 by Fox is more like 1600 to 1700 grams. About twice as powerful as the Maserin. So, yeah, I just think that the detent could be improved. Also, the blade stop is the thumb studs, or are the thumb studs. But what the issue is there is that they only rest on the very top portion of the cutouts here. You can see those cutouts. The thumb studs engage on those, but only the top of those cutouts is being engaged by the thumb studs. So it creates this kind of weird wear pattern where just the edge of it starts wearing. I don't know if that's bad machining or just part of the design, but it's kind of annoying. And also, when the knife is closed, because the cutout is not symmetrical, this cutout is a little bit deeper, and so the thumb stud on this side clears it just fine. But on this side, the thumb stud bumps into the handle and creates this weird wear mark there. So another little thing that's just annoying. I don't know. I don't mind it that much, but you can't really change it because this is anodized aluminum, and if you try and, you know, mill it out a bit or carve it or grind it down, then it's just brushed aluminum, which looks terrible. So if you have a way to anodize this after you've modified it, I would recommend that. Just be careful how you modify it. So overall, this knife is good. I like the design, but it's too expensive and just a few things are off on it, such as the blade steel. If the N690 CO version were more common and at a better price point, I would still pay around $120 for the N690 CO version, but I don't know. I don't know if that'll ever happen. So, that being said, what knives are available in the general price range that, you know, compare to the knife? First is the Kershaw Blur. And it is a smaller knife. The Kershaw Blur is a bit smaller than the ARM-1. You can see I've done the pocket clip mod on this as well. It's got similar inlay material, not quite as aggressive. This is more of a rubbery texture. This is more of a sandpaper grit type of texture. So the Track Tech inserts are not as aggressive as the Maserin. Also, it is much slimmer, easier in the hand than the Maserin, and it's got more organic lines rather than hard kind of square lines. But this is a good knife, kind of a medium use knife. I took the spring assist out of this just because I hate spring assist knives. Only a few of the knives I have are still spring assist, only because they don't function properly without the spring assist in them. Kershaw is really bad for this. They'll put a spring assist mechanism in there, and that is what acts as the knive's detent. And that just pisses me off, because when I try and remove the assist mechanism, then the detent is gone and the knife just shakes open. A good example of that is the Kershaw piston. This knife, however, does not do that, luckily. It's got a good detent, not perfect, but good enough, and the action is just awesome. So, and anyway, comparing it to the ARM-1, the handle materials are very similar, and overall it's just a good medium use knife. Another one that I've already shown is the Fox Predator 2. This is a bit of a different knife overall, but what I like about it is that it has a reversible pocket clip, so lefties rejoice. You don't need to, do your own modification to this. It's got this really nice blade shape. This is N690CO steel, so it's much better steel than 440A, and it's aluminum handle, although a completely different texture. It's also a liner lock. It's got better materials like the phosphor bronze bushings. This also comes in a G10 version with serrations. So if you like G10 handles more than aluminum handles, there is one of these available in that configuration. But this is also a heavy duty military knife. It's larger. It's about the same size as the Maserin, not quite, but comparable. And finally, the Benchmade 710. This is a bit of a bigger blade than the Maserin, and totally different materials. This is G10 with stainless liners. Quite thin. It's got an axis lock rather than a liner lock like all three of these are. It's got a reversible pocket clip. It's wearing my awesome modified Benchmade pocket clip. Nice and shiny. I like that. Matches the theme of the blade, I think. But the McHenry & Williams is just a good all-purpose blade. It can be an EDC blade, a bit of a larger EDC blade, but it still works, and it is kind of classy looking. But it can also be put into that military roll if it has to be. They do make a blackened version of the 710, so it's a little bit more stealthy. Same with the ARM-1. They have a blackened version as well. So there are a few comparisons to the ARM-1. There's the ARM-1 review redone, so to better represent the ARM-1 and hopefully get the word out, because I think some people might be interested in the knife design, and if they have the money to spend on it, then I think they would be happy with it. It's very reminiscent of a Microtech, just slightly different. It's got the same kind of thick feel. It doesn't quite have the same locking mechanism because the Microtechs are really thick. And of course the Microtechs are a lot nicer. They've got a better blade steel. I think they use S35 VN, which is amazing. But I mean, the overall feel of the ARM-1 is like a Microtech. And I think guys who like Microtech designs would like the ARM-1 as well. Anyway, thanks for watching. Leave comments or suggestions or whatever down below, please. It really gives me a feel for what people like in these videos. I try to just bring out knife designs that aren't as popular, or you know, they haven't garnered as much attention as other knife designs. So, thanks for watching again. I will see you later.